Hello, and welcome to the North Carolina Water Loss Program Kickoff meeting. I am Will Jernigan with Kavanaugh, and we have a few folks that are joining us on the webcast today that you'll hear from. Glad to have you with us. We're going to be looking at an overview of what's going to be involved in this program and some of the things that we'll be asking you for, some of the data, and look at the schedule and just get a orientation of what the program is going to involve and what you're going to get out of the program. Thanks for joining us for the webcast today. I'll do a quick round of introductions from our side of the team. As I said, I'm Will Jernigan with Kavanaugh, and we have Drew Blackwell, also with Kavanaugh, that will be helping to present today. We also have our host, which is the North Carolina Department of Water Infrastructure. And I'm not sure if Kavitha is on or Vince, or if anybody else wants to say a quick hello. Drew, I might ask you to see if you can unmute their specific line. And we'll do just a pause in case anybody from DWI wants to say a quick hello. All right, no problem there. If you do get on and want to speak up later, just shout out and we can say hello later on in the webcast. I will ask Nicole with WRRI if you would say a hello and give everybody a welcome from your perspective. That would be great.
Sure. Hello. Can you hear me? Am I unmuted?
Yeah, you're coming through fine.
Can you hear me? Okay, great. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Nicole Wilkinson. I'm at the North Carolina Water Resources Research Institute. We're based here at NC State Raleigh, but we serve the entire state and conduct funding opportunities, and coordinating research activities on a variety of water issues around the state, and participated in a variety of training and professional development and technical assistance activities such as this water loss control program. So you'll be hearing from me as well as Tabitha and Will and Drew throughout the program, and happy to have you, and I look forward to meeting you guys in person over the course of this program.
Sounds great. Thanks, Nicole. And again, this is Will Jernigan with Kavanaugh speaking. I'm going to do a little bit of an introduction on the program itself, and then I'll ask Drew Blackwell to take us through some of the nuts and bolts. We will have an opportunity for questions at the end, so if you have a question, feel free to write it down, or if you want to type it into the chat box, that's another option, and we'll keep an eye out there for those items. All right, so the goal of this program is in North Carolina to demonstrate the M36 methodology. It's from the American Water Works Association. It's encapsulated in the Manual of Practice 36 that deals with how to do a water audit and how to use that to implement a cost-effective water loss control program. So the state is interested in putting funding behind this program with 10 utilities to demonstrate this through training and technical assistance, where our team will be working directly with your team. We'll be working both in a group environment and in a one-to-one environment. I'll talk a bit about that in a moment. And out of this program, the state is also looking to get some analysis of the pilot outcomes and use that to gain insights into what are the opportunities for resource and revenue recovery. That's something that I would propose is of interest to the state, but it's also of interest to the utilities themselves, in self-interest, to identify areas where costs can be reduced and revenues can be increased. Is always something that I think is a positive and is going to be an outcome from this program. Who is involved in the program? You are the few, the proud, the elite pilot program participants. So welcome aboard and glad to have you in. We've got representation from the different regions, as you can see here, so you can find yourself on the map. For those of you farther down east, I hope all is going well with preparations for the big storm. But you can see we've got basically three clusters that'll be exciting to work in the west, the Piedmont, and in the coastal area, and maybe see some differences and some similarities in how this program and the M36 methodology is applied. Quick overview of the schedule, and as I said, Drew is going to go into the nuts and bolts, but I want to give the big picture. And the big picture is, outside of this webcast and this webcast that you're watching now, you basically have two interaction points with us in the program. One is an on-site technical workshop or a work session that will be taking place in December. And then the final is an in-person summit that we're hoping to get everybody back together a little bit later next year. In between those, of course, from today's webcast to the workshop in December, there is a bit of data that we're going to be asking you for. We've got a couple months to put that together. And then there's a follow-on request, a round 2 of data that we're going to be asking you for. We are going to go ahead and give you both round 1 and round 2 information now. And if it's more convenient, or if you prefer to just gather everything at once, you have that option. But the round 2 information isn't needed until early next year. So you kind of see the rhythm of how we will be engaging with you in this program. Down below, your participation in it. Up above is the program management team's portions of analyzing the data, providing information back to you at the end, is the general flow. I'll throw this slide up one more time a little bit later on in the webcast when we're thinking about next steps. But with that, I'm going to ask Drew to take us through a look at some of the basic and foundational aspects of the M36 process. This is just to provide a good foundation for some of the things that we're going to be working on in person when we are together in December. So with that, Drew, I will hopefully successfully pass you the presentation and let you take it from there.
All right. Thank you very much, Will. Am I coming through okay through the audio?
Yeah, coming through great.
Great. Hello, everyone, and thanks again for attending the webcast this afternoon. So now that Will has given us a bit of an overview on the pilot program, we'd like to cover some of the foundations of water auditing and give you some background behind some of the goals and outcomes of the program. At the end of the webcast, we'll be asking you to compile your own water audit and gather some of the data that Will just touched on. So we want this background information to be helpful to you as you move to those next steps. But first, just a little bit of context to the history of water auditing and loss control. It has been around for some time, but has recently been catching on across the country. From all over the country, actually. There have been water loss programs going on in as many as 12 states throughout the United States. Here we have just a timeline spanning nearly 3 decades of the evolution of water auditing and loss control, starting with the first edition of the AWWA M36 manual. And since then, there have been large steps to move the M36 methodology forward. There have been industry research reports, ongoing projects, and national attention centered around water loss in recent years. And a flurry of activity has occurred since 2014, when the current version of the AWWA free water audit software was released. So you can also see in the bottom right-hand corner a map representing the location of users that have downloaded the current version of the software. All the progress over the years has been designed to help utilities understand their water losses and look through a cost-effective lens when considering what intervention strategies they might employ and the cost of those strategies. Shown here is the current version of the free water audit software. This is version 5.0 that was released in 2014. This is the industry standard tool for water auditing and is tied directly to the M36 manual. The water audit software is available for the low cost of nothing, so the price is right for this tool. If you have used it before, that's fantastic. If not, that's no problem at all. Through the course of this program, we'll be teaching you the ins and outs of the water audit software, and you'll notice that it is an Excel spreadsheet, so it's something that we're all familiar using. You can get your own copy by going to awwa.org/waterlosscontrol, and there's a place to enter your contact information. You'll be provided a link to download the most current version of the software. So again, the first thing you'll realize is that this is an Excel spreadsheet with a lot of good tools under the hood. Although there are a lot of good resources in the water audit software, the primary tab that is used is the reporting worksheet, and that is what you're looking at here. So it may be a little daunting at first, but really there's only 13 volume inputs, which would include your quantities of water supplied, your consumption, and any components of apparent loss. And then there are 7 system data inputs, so very, very manageable, and all including data that you are most likely gathering anyway. So the water audit software is a tool to help utilities quantify their water loss volumes, the cost in which their losses are valued, and also the validity of the source data applied to the water audit. And so this helps us hone in on our economic optimum in the cost of the water losses and the cost of intervention. Shown here is that economic optimum. So ultimately, this is a tool that will help you identify what your economic optimum of loss and intervention is. Once we understand the validity of our data, then the volume and the values focus on our supply side conservation from a water resources perspective, and also revenue recovery from a financial perspective. So there is a relationship between the cost of water losses and the cost of intervention. Aggressive or reactive intervention from both ends of the spectrum can result in overspending. And the goal is to find that economic optimum. And you'll notice that the goal is not to achieve 0 losses. In fact, that may result in the cost for that intervention may outweigh what we're trying to achieve there. So the goal is not to achieve 0, but find that economic optimum of our loss and intervention. The water audit that we looked at just a moment ago, it involves a review of records and data that traces the flow of water from its source and treatment through the water distribution system, and ultimately to the customer, and it shows the detail in supply and consumption and any loss components that exist in a water system. The water balance that we're showing here, it summarizes those components and provides some accountability, as all the water placed into our distribution system should, in theory, since this is a mass balance, equal all of the water taken out of the distribution system. So a preliminary assessment of water loss can be obtained by gathering records and placing data into the water audit worksheet. And the summary data from the water audit is shown in the water balance. And that compares the distribution system input volume with the sum of customer consumption and losses. Those are either estimated or known. The sum of all components in each column in the water balance are equal and therefore in balance. So we'll learn a little bit more about the water balance through the course of the program, but introducing this now is going to be helpful to you as you begin to gather your supporting documentation and compile your water audit. So let's take a little bit closer look working through the water balance. Our water balance starts with the water supplied. The water supplied volume is the annual volume of treated water delivered to the retail water distribution system, and it equals our system input volume minus any water exported volume to any neighboring communities. Our water balance and audit are really bound by 2 things. First, the time in which we're building our water balance. So that's either in our calendar year. And then the second thing it's bound by are the parameters of our water balance. So where are we starting our water balance? Our water balance begins with water supplied at the entry point of water distribution systems. So where those treated sources are entering our distribution system. As we move from left to right across the water balance, the next area is authorized consumption. Authorized consumption is any water delivered for consumptive purposes that are authorized or approved by the water utility, thereby providing a benefit to the community. In this consumption, it can be a combination of billed, unbilled, metered, or unmetered. So in those instances of unmetered usage, estimation methods are used to determine and continue to account for all water entering the distribution system through this mass balance approach. And similar to water supplied, our authorized consumption should only include potable sources. So our billed authorized consumption. This represents the collective amounts of water delivered to individual customers that have accounts in a customer billing system and is the basis for revenue generation for the water utility. Our unbilled authorized consumption is the authorized consumption. This describes the water taken irregularly in a variety of manners from non-account connections that typically do not supply permanent structures. So some typical examples would be withdrawing water from fire hydrants, so fire hydrants for firefighting, flushing, testing, street sweeping, construction, and other purposes. Water utilities may also use water from the distribution system at their own plants and facilities in uses that might include backwash water to clean treatment plant filters or internal building use and sampling. The billed metered authorized consumption is typically, hopefully, this is the largest volume of your authorized consumption. But this is the consumption metered and billed to retail customers, including all groups of customers such as domestic, that either single family, multifamily residential, commercial, industrial, or institutional. There is one summary value number in the water audit as derived from lots of billing data, seemingly thousands of accounts. So through the course of this program, we'll learn how to look for things in our billing data, in our consumption data that may cause common pitfalls that might introduce error when we're trying to quantify our water losses. So having quantified our water supplied and our authorized consumption, our water loss volume starts to come into the picture. Our water losses are calculated by taking the difference of our water supplied and our authorized consumption. We can see here that our water losses, moving from the left to the right, are broken up into two different types of losses. So we have our apparent losses and our real losses indicated down here below. The apparent losses represent the water that is not measured or recorded accurately. Or said another way, it's the water that's making it to the end user, but the revenue is not captured. And there are three types of apparent losses. We see here we have customer metering inaccuracies, unauthorized consumption, and systematic data handling errors. So the first one, customer metering inaccuracies. So most drinking water utilities provide meters on all of their customer service connection piping. However, we know that meters typically are not 100% accurate in all cases. We know they're subject to wear and loss of accuracy over time. So accounting for these customer metering inaccuracies is part of quantifying our apparent losses. Unauthorized consumption, plainly stated, is theft. And this comes in a variety of creative ways, but not limited to meter tampering, bypassing lines, or illegal connections. The systematic data handling errors pertains to customer consumption and billing data error that occur in the water utilities business processes as a result of oversight, procedure, or gaps in information programming and archiving. The other part of our losses from our water losses are the real losses. Real losses are the physical leaks in our system before water makes it to the customer. The real losses quantity is calculated as the remaining loss volume by the audit software and by process of elimination here in our water balance once our authorized consumption and apparent losses have been determined. So basically, what's left over through this mass balance approach are our real losses. Note here that the real losses are not further broken down as the apparent losses are. This can and this will be done, but not through the free water audit software. A follow-on activity using a tool that's known as the leakage component analysis will be used to further define your system's real loss profile. So with our water balance, we've worked entirely through to the last column over here to the far right. And we're left with revenue water up here at the top, and then non-revenue water. Our non-revenue water is the portion of the water that a utility places into the distribution system that is not billed and therefore recovers no revenue for the utility. It's calculated by taking the sum of our water losses, both apparent and real, and any unbilled authorized consumption. So as we've been walking through the water balance, our focus has been in assigning these volumes in those different areas of our water balance. However, the outputs to the water audit, these are our performance indicators. And our performance indicators are measured in terms of volume, value, and validity. So volume, how much water are we using? Or how much water are we losing? For value, how much is the water loss costing us on an annual basis? We'll learn that our apparent losses and our real losses are valued differently, and so we can see what those costs are annually for our system. The third gear in this graphic here is validity, and we were asking ourselves how valid, how reliable is the data behind each of those inputs that we're placing into the water audit software. So when we're looking at the data validity, that last question, it measures, we measure our validity by examining the practices and policies of our system relative to the data, and it helps us to determine if the next steps are actionable or not. It may very well be that the next action is to improve the reliability in our data before considering any type of water loss intervention strategies and what the cost of those strategies may be. We may find that it is the best next step is to improve our confidence in our data going into our water audit. So we are developing this through our reliability in the data through a detailed grading matrix in the water audit. The grading matrix focuses on the utility's policies and practices for that specific input going into your water audit. And as a whole, it provides a quantitative measure of the reliability of the data. And it looks a little bit like this. This is the snapshot of the reporting worksheet that we looked at earlier. But here, there are some fields that next to each input that shows us a grading matrix. So each input in the water audit software has this data validity grade. Each data validity grade has a unique grading matrix to help assess the practices and policies around a specific input. So in order to select a certain data grade, all of the criteria for that grade needs to be met. The data validity helps us better understand the stronger and the weaker points in our data, and this may help us define what our next steps should be. Certainly, if we have identified some of the weaker points in our data, then that helps guide us into some of the next steps, some of the actions that we can take to improve our data reliability. A few usual suspects that we often run into are found within the water supplied area of our water balance. Specifically, we see the extent that our supply sources are metered, but more commonly, to what extent our source meters are tested, either volumetrically or electronically calibrated. So these listed here, meter wear, we know over time meters do wear and the accuracy of the meters do degrade. Meter location, we'll look at an example of that in just a second, but poor meter location can often throw off the accuracy of our water supplied volume. And since we now know our water supplied volume, difference between our water supply and our authorized consumption is how we quantify our water losses, any uncertainty in this volume here would translate to some degree of uncertainty when we're quantifying our water losses. So these are just a few examples that may introduce error into the accuracy in our water balance. One example that we would like to share with you, this was through the Georgia statewide program, where part of the phase of that program was to go out and do some supply meter testing. So this is actually an example related to the meter placement. So in this example, there's a propeller meter that was installed too close to the check valve, and the meter was tested by the manufacturer through a factory bench test, which when it was tested, it tested fantastic, 99.5% accuracy. However, when the meter was installed and then tested in situ for the current conditions in the field, the meter was over-registering significantly. And we can see here at 142.2%. So basically, it was not a good hydraulic flow based on the placement of that meter. So just a good example of how these errors can throw off the accuracy in our water balance. And again, the two most important volumes in our balance are that water supplied, either through our own sources or if we're purchasing water, if we're importing our water. Those are certainly the two largest volumes in our water audit, and also the authorized consumption. Typically, that's our billed metered authorized consumption, and those two volumes together are helping us quantify those water losses. So some of the usual suspects we may see in our authorized consumption that could throw off the accuracy in our water balance. In the authorized consumption would be redundant volumes, so any kind of duplicated volumes that we see there. Perhaps if we're dealing with any type of recycled water, if we are inadvertently including any of those non-potable volumes into our total consumption volume, then that would certainly overstate our consumption and not give us an accurate calculation of our water loss volume. Some missing volumes and mismatched timeframes. So the mismatched timeframe speaks to the inherent lag time that may occur between the time our supply volumes are read through our supply meters and the time that our consumption meters are read. So through this program, we'll be learning how to identify some of these things and be an alert when we're determining when we're looking at the data together and determining the best data that we should be applying to our water audit. And finally, just a reminder here that the terms in which the metrics are measured are through what we call the 3 V's, the volume, value, and validity. How much water losses am I experiencing? What is the value of those losses on an annual basis? And how valid is that data? What is the reliability of the data going into our water audit? So now I'm going to pass the controls back to Will, and he's going to round us out with the big picture of why we're doing this, and then move on to some of the next steps of the program.
Sounds great. Thanks a lot, Drew, for walking us through the nuts and bolts. It is maybe some of you on the webcast have already seen some of these materials and seen the water balance. Maybe you've worked with the software. As Drew said, if you have not, that's perfectly fine. We're tailoring this to those who have experience and those who are also maybe starting from scratch with the M36 method. So excited to get into it. Here's a quick refresh on your interactions with this program. After today, you've got a couple months on the first round of the data gathering. Then we're going to get together in December for the workshop. That will be a one-day, and we're going to bring that workshop to a location near you. I'll show you where those are, and we'll tell you the dates so you can save the dates. And then following that, we'll have a second gathering period for data. As I mentioned, we will provide the info for both round 1 and round 2 of what data we're asking for in the event that you want to just do it all in one push, and that would be fine. Later on next year, we are looking to have a summit in a central location, ideally to get all 10 utilities together for something that's more of a formal ending to the program, reflecting and then looking into the future. Just a quick look at the who is going to be participating in those interactions, and this information has been shared in the early materials and the early communication, but I want to reiterate it does take a team. The areas specifically that we are encouraging to participate are those responsible for the measurement of supply, either your own sources or if it's purchased, whoever is on point and responsible for that measurement and that instrumentation and managing that. Customer meters, whoever is responsible for that, or someone in that arena, someone from the arena of billing, and then someone from the arena of management. This is I would say, a core blend of staff that need to be involved. But you can see from this graphic above, that can come in a whole lot of different labels and shapes and sizes. So it's really your call on who to participate. If you have any questions or need input or feedback on who to get involved, just give us a call. We're happy to talk through that with you. Outcomes of the program, specifically, when you're finished with this program, what are you going to walk away with? The top-down AWWA audit. That has the level 1 validation process that comes with it. We'll learn more about that in the program, but it essentially is the 3 V's that you've heard Drew describe. We're also going to be looking at a more detailed profile of the water loss, getting a bit deeper than total real loss and total apparent loss, and getting into a closer look at the subcomponents. And that's really where the rubber meets the road when it comes to intervention. Control happens at the subcomponent level, not really at the high level. We're going to get into target setting and identifying where is the sag in the curve, this conceptual curve that you've heard us talk about, and then tailored to your utility based on your profile, based on your validity, and based on your target, what would be the next steps. So targeting or tailoring that to your utility's specific situation in form of recommendations and next steps. So those are the program outcomes. Excited to get into that. The M36 manual from AWWA is roughly about 450 pages, and someone once asked me if I could put all of that on one page, if I had to squeeze it down. And so this is what I came up with, and hopefully this is helpful. It's really, the M36 methodology at its core is about identifying how to get to a cost-effective program. Which interventions make sense? Which of them are going to bring a positive return? Well, to do that, we've got to have a baseline. We've got to have the annual audit as a business practice with summary level validation. You really need to break down the losses into their subcomponents to be able to figure out, yeah, I know I've got some meter under registration issues, but is that largely because of wear and tear on the meters, or do I have extensive meters that are not the right size or maybe not the right type? So the nature of the problem has to be kind of broken down, because each element or each subcomponent actually requires a different approach. And one approach or one solution may not work for one part of the problem. So matching the solutions with the problems is really stage two. That's the major piece, and then identifying areas that are uncertain that need to be shored up before we go and spend money on intervention. The dollars and cents comes in stage three, looking at cost benefits. What's it costing me now? What would it cost to address it? How does that cost benefit relate? So this is the arc of the M36 method. The scope of this program takes us through stage one, stage two, and stage three to get to that. So we'll not be going into intervention land with this particular program, but the idea is to set you up so that you have a roadmap and know which areas are a priority and which areas warrant some focus in your utility. All right, the last piece of our presentation today and getting oriented to the program is next steps. So the data gathering begins today, and we have posted the list of data that we are asking for on the program website. The program website is simply northcarolinawaterloss.org, northcarolinawaterloss.org. And when you go there, you will be prompted for a password. The password is all lowercase Carolina. That is ACC agnostic, not supporting one particular team over another. So I should say that. But the password is indeed just the word Carolina. So once you get in there, you'll see that we've got a few different pages in there, and you'll get to download this PDF, and it's got a list of the data that we're asking for. What I've got here is just a summary to give you a flavor of the types of information that we're asking, but all you need to do is just hit that PDF, download it, and use it to guide the information that you're gathering. Hopefully, when you look at this summary of data, you get a sense that these are pieces of information largely that you're already tracking. Supply information, consumption, customer consumption data, meter information, and info about your network, your pipe lengths, total length of pipes, and operating budget and things like that. We will say, if there's something on the list that we're asking for and you don't have it, or maybe you don't have it in exactly the way that we're asking for it, that's A-okay. We want to work with what you have, and we're available to kind of talk through it and meet you where you are. So don't stress it out. Don't stress about it, and reach out to us if something's missing or if you have a question about something that we can be helpful. Round two, in the round two data, we're going to get into some additional things, including repairs and tank overflow. Some of these things in round two we may ask you for, you may not be tracking at all. And if that's the case, that's A-okay. We're just looking for that information that you do have. I will say, the more information you can give us, the more detailed and targeted and tailored feedback you'll be able to get out of this program. The last thing I'll say on the data gathering is that for round one, we are asking for around a 2-month window, so into early November on the 9th is the deadline to provide that. And the time frame for the information that we're asking is the most recent year, and it's up to you if you would prefer to do that on a fiscal basis, if that aligns better with your accounting, or if you want to do it on a calendar basis. Just do the most recent one. We ask for a couple months backwards and forwards of that year, so a total of a 16-month window. That helps to provide a little bit of bookends on the information that we're looking at. As always, Excel format is preferred. If scanned old documents in PDF format is the only thing you have, we'll work with you. But if you are able to provide it in a digital format that can be manipulated, that's the best for sure. Here is another snapshot of the website where you can go to upload it. There is a button called Upload Portal, and you'll go on there. By the time you get there, you'll find your utility's name, and you just hit the button and it's basically upload there. So we can stay out of the land of email and do this is a secure upload portal that you can send your files directly to us. The last thing I want to say about the data request is round one and round two. Round one is from now to early November. If you want to go ahead and be gathering the round two data, that's fine. That's great. You can ping us with questions as needed on that. Send it to us anytime. The deadline for that actually goes out into, March of next year. So you got a little more time on that. But on the round 2, we are making available essentially an extra credit assignment for any utilities who are ready and willing and able to provide us with an extract of your billing database at the account level. Then we are offering to essentially do some advanced analytics and review on the raw data from the billing system. That's not the standard offering, but if you're able to provide that info to us, we will give it a detailed review and are basically setting that up as an extra credit. You don't have to do it, but if you are able to provide it to us, we'd love to add that as part of one of your outcomes for the program. All that is captured in the written data request, so you will have an opportunity to review it as you access that document on the website, northcarolinawaterloss.org. In October, I'll mention that we are planning to post a very brief webcast. It'll be just recorded, so it's not a live webcast that you have to schedule, but you can watch it at your convenience. And the purpose of that webcast will be a test drive of the AWWA software. Just for those in the program that have not worked with the software specifically, it'll be a few minutes just to, here's how you get it up, and here's where you put the information in, and just generally how it works, a test drive. So be on the lookout for that. That'll be posted sometime in October. All right, looking ahead to the in-person workshop in December. Excited to save the date. So depending on where you are, look for the location nearest you. If you'd rather come to one that's not nearest you, that's okay. But assuming you want to come to the one that's nearest you, please save the date, and we will be providing a little more details on the address and the specific venue. But for now, you can see the general proximity of where we're planning to have the workshops with the big red stars in the middle of December during that week of the 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th. All right, with that, I'll hit sort of the big picture just one more time as a refresh that today's webcast kicks us off 2 months to gather data on site in December, the map I just showed, the round 2 period to get us the data by March, and then really your provision of data and coming to the workshop, that's the big bulk of it. We will be doing the detailed analysis from there, preparing the report and the recommendations, etc. And we will be assembling at the end or later on in 2019, likely late September, so about a year from now. And that will be the final workshop and summit of the program. So with that, I want to take a quick pause. I think we do have someone from DWI, and I'm going to try to, Drew, if you can unmute the DWI line, please. Hopefully that will work, and we can see if DWI has any summary comments and maybe a quick hello. All right. That doesn't seem to be working, so.
Okay.
Hey there, Kavitha, I think I can hear you now.
Oh, you can hear me?
Yeah, there you are. Hey there. Do you want to say any summary comments or a quick hello?
Conference will now be recorded.
All right. So Drew, maybe you can work on the tech piece there, and I will just do a quick review to see if we've had any questions pop into the chat box. All right, I'm not seeing any. Drew, have you seen any questions come in? Let me make sure from your end.
No questions through the chat box, Will. Kavitha, apologize for the tech issues. It looks like you guys should be able to come back through to give a few words to the participants.
All right, sound check, Kavitha. All right, you guys may be muted on your end. All right. Nicole, let me go to you and see if you had any summary comments you wanted to offer. It looks like we don't have any questions coming in the chat box.
No specific things regarding the content. I guess just a few logistical items for those who are on the call. I see there's a couple names that I don't recognize. That means either I don't have you on the list of as a member of your team from your utility. So just make sure that you send us your email address and your title and what utility you're participating from. I created a listserv earlier today and added the folks that I have so far to that listserv so that we can use that to communicate about the program. That way we make sure we don't leave anybody off long email chains inadvertently. We'll keep an eye on the website. I'll add a resources tab that'll have links to some of those documents, the software download, things like that Will and Drew mentioned. So the listserv is a great way to communicate with other people across the program if you have questions. Troubleshooting, you can always reach out to one of us as the program leads. You can reach out to us directly, and just keep an eye on the website for updates and content to be added, particularly in the coming week or so. And we'll be adding a lot of new stuff and then keep that going as the program continues. So just those few logistical items. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thanks very much, Nicole. Looks like we do have a green audio on Vince and Kavitha.
Yeah, sorry about that. Can you hear us now?
Hey, there you are.
Yeah, finally. Thank you, Drew and Will, for a nice overview of the program, and all the participants. Like, you must have heard from me through emails a couple of times, I think more than a couple of times. So I'm Kavitha Ambika Devi, here with the Division of Water Infrastructure, and we have Kim Carlson, our director here. Kim, say hello.
Hello, everybody.
And then Vince Tomeno, GWSRF branch head.
Hello, everybody.
So we are very excited to be working with WRRI and Kavanaugh on this pilot program. So it looks like everything has been really planned out, and we are like rolling in very quickly. So, Will, do you know like all of our participants are there in today's call, or like we are missing some of our participants?
Yeah, I'm not sure, Kavitha. I haven't done an audit of the attendees today, but we can check on that, and that actually brings up a good point. This webcast will be recorded, and we are going to post it to the website that I'm showing on the screen now. So it'll be available for viewing later, and that'll be at everybody's convenience.
Okay, so we don't have anything else add and welcome to this program, and we are all excited, and looking forward for a nice study and nice use of data. So thank you, everyone.
Excellent. All right, well, thank you very much, Kavitha, for that welcome, and Kim, hello as well. All right, we'll do a quick check on the chat box and see if any other questions have popped in. And by the way, folks, in the program, the website is a good place to always check if you have a question, because we are regularly posting updates and posting new resources or new links there, and it's constantly evolving. So if you have a question, I would recommend the first thing to do is to check this website, northcarolinawaterloss.org. Password is Carolina, all lowercase, and that also has our contact information on there, so it's a good hub to go to. All right, Drew, are you seeing any other questions come through the chat box?
Nope, no other questions coming through, Will.
Okay. Well, what I'm going to suggest is we'll go ahead and wrap up then. And if you do have a question that you felt like is still there, you want to get answered, again, come to the website and reach out to us, and we'll look forward to talking with everybody soon. Hope everybody stays safe and dry this week. We'll talk to you later.